Greetings, monster fans. I am Monster D, the master of monsters. Well, if you've been at this site for a while, perhaps you remember my recent video review of the Maze book, Myths and Monsters by Joe Wos. Well, I have a fun little surprise for you today, as not only did I capture a D view and some footage of him in action, but I also happened to do an interview with Mr. Wos. Yes, that's right. Many of your burning questions about this talented man and where he came from will be answered here today, right now. So sit back and enjoy. So, who are you and what is it that you do?
Hi, my name is Joe Wos. I'm a cartoonist and I'm also a master maze artist. I have a syndicated feature, appears in newspapers worldwide, called Maze Tunes, distributed through Creator Syndicate. And I also have several books published, including Myths and Monsters, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today, I think. It's all cartoon illustrated mazes with monster themes. So 50 different monsters. There's my favorite, the Minotaur. And then I also have another book called Amazing Animals, which is all animal mazes. And as you can see, you actually go through the illustrations. So that's sort of what makes my work unique.
So, considering all the myriad twisting, turning, artistic paths you could have taken, why do mazes?
You know, I've drawn them since I was a little kid. Since I was about 4 years old, I've loved to draw mazes. And then I took, I'd worked as a cartoonist, freelance my entire life. And I took some time off, about 7 years actually, to focus on running a museum. I ran a cartoon museum in Pittsburgh called the Toonseum. I was the founder and executive director. And I stepped down deciding it's time to focus on cartooning. And my lifelong dream is to be a syndicated cartoonist. And I realized I couldn't do a comic strip. I couldn't do editorial cartoons. I didn't know what to do. And then it just dawned on me, like, nobody's doing mazes. It's sort of unique. That's what I love to do. So I had created a record-setting world's largest hand-drawn maze. Was 4 feet high by 36 feet long. Garnered international attention. And then that was the point I said, okay, mazes is my thing. And so I just, from that point on, decided to focus on books and syndication and just draw mazes.
The Toonseum, you say, huh? Well, tell me a little bit more about that. Are you still within contact of the Toonseum? And perhaps have you had any work of your own displayed at that most wonderful place?
I have. It was interesting because as the founder, I started the museum, then I moved it to downtown Pittsburgh and helped it expand. And I was there 7 years, but during that time, I had a very strict policy of never exhibiting my own work.
Yes.
So it was a very strict policy. So the first time I actually had work exhibited was recently for their games exhibit. They featured some of my mazes in that exhibit. So that's the first time I actually exhibited in the Toonseum.
Mm-hmm.
But I made a pretty clean split from the Toonseum, mostly because I was so associated with that organization that I knew it would be unfair to whoever the new director was coming in, and to the museum itself, to sort of struggle under still being connected to my identity. So it did what it always did, what I wanted it to do, which was to become its own organization, its own entity, and it's gathered quite a following.
So, you have a maze book of monsters as well as one about animals. Well, I quite enjoy animals myself, as do the monster fans. Tell me, what pulled you into the intrigue of animals themselves?
That has been a big part of my career. I'm also a performer. I illustrate stories as I tell them. And so a lot of them are animal stories. And the way that came about was I used to draw at the Children's Museum of Pittsburgh. And I would just sit and draw for kids, and I would ask kids, what's your favorite animal? It's sort of the easiest connection you have between a person. They say, what's your favorite animal? Especially kids. And they would say a cat, and I'd draw a cat. And then they'd start asking, well, what's the cat's name? And I'd go, his name's Fred. Where does he live? Oh, he lives in a tree. Why does a cat live in a tree? Well, he's afraid of the mice, so he hides up in the tree. So what happened is I would start making up stories on the spot with these kids. And that's how I originally started, was improvising all my stories. I would get on stage, take suggestions from the audience, and improvise. That was very stressful. After a while, I had about 100 stories that were really solid stories that I knew I could tell, and about 20 that are favorites that I continue to perform. But that's, animals became a big part of my show.
Ah, excellent. And do you have a very favorite animal of your own?
My favorite animal used to be dogs, but now I have a cat, and so I love cats quite a bit. But so dogs and cats are my favorite animals.
Dogs and cats, huh? That's quite nice. So no fire-belly toads or architeuthis or hammer-headed bats, dogs and cats. Okay.
I do have a favorite monster.
Ah, now you are speaking my language. Go on.
My favorite monster is the squonk. Squonk! Now, if you don't know what a squonk is, a squonk is the world's ugliest creature. And it's so ugly it does two things all the time. It hides, because it's ashamed how it looks, and it cries out of self-pity. And it's a Pennsylvania folktale. And I'm one of the few people who still tells the story of a guy named Sam McSneed and his efforts to capture a squonk, which don't turn out so well. So.
Huh, the squonk, indeed. It sounds almost like a video game character that perhaps Sega would have come up with.
Interestingly enough, the group Genesis did a song that was the tale of the squonk, which is, I've never found out why this obscure Pennsylvania folktale became, a popular song for them. But if you've ever heard someone say, "Quit your squonking," which you don't hear too often, it's "Quit your crying, quit your squonking."
Excellent, excellent. So, have you any upcoming projects that you would like to discuss now?
Our next project actually comes out in January. It is called Animation Celebration, the Top 100 Animated TV Characters. So it is a huge book that just picks the top 100 characters from animation of television, spanning really about, almost 65 years, almost 70 years actually. Take it back, about 70 years. So going back to the very beginning. So that's a lot of fun back, and I had a co-author, Martin Gitlin, who worked on it with me, and so that's next. And then we're going to do some more maze books. So keeping very busy.
That is not only excellent, it is also tunerific. So, have you any advice for any up-and-coming artists?
My number one advice is just draw. Just draw and draw and draw. Get yourself a stack of copy paper. Cheap, 500 sheets for $4, and get yourself some markers and just draw, and don't worry about making mistakes. That's the way we learn, is from the mistakes. Don't over-erase, don't overthink it. Just draw and draw and draw non-stop. The more you draw, the better you get at it, obviously. And don't set a standard of looking at other artists and going, "Oh, I wish I could draw like that." You're not that artist. I'm not that artist. I'm not you either. We all draw differently. We all have our own style. We all have our own technique. We all have our special way of drawing that makes us who we are. I learned that from my friend Fred Rogers a long time ago. We're all special. So I would say embrace that specialness, be yourself, and just be the best you that you can be, and do your very best work.
Yes. I sincerely thank you, Joe, for that vote of inspiration and confidence, as well as for this entire interview. Thank you so very much for allowing this to happen. And to my monster fans, I thank you for watching this video. I hope that you have enjoyed it. I also hope that you follow the works of Joe Wos and all that he has coming. And I hope that you take a little inspiration yourself from what he has said. I full-heartedly agree. Yes, If you wish to be an artist, do not hold back. Draw, draw, draw every day. Do whatever you feel like doing on whatever media you choose. Do not fear mistakes. I couldn't agree more. Well, I thank you all for this entire video. This has been brought to you by the legendary Joe Wos and the one, the only Monster D.
He crawled out to the edge of the roof, and then he called out, "Oh, Mr. Chicken, Mr. Chicken!" And the chicken said, "What do you want, Don?" "Mr. Chicken, will you please teach me how to crow so that I can be a rooster?" "Teach you how to crow so that you can be a rooster? You're a duck. You can't be a rooster. That's the silliest thing I've ever heard. Besides, I never really wanted to be a rooster. I don't like being a rooster. You know what it's like being a rooster? You have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning every day. You have to climb up this great big ladder, crawl out to the edge of the roof, and then you crawl your lungs out. I never wanted to be a rooster. My brother Ernie, he was supposed to be the rooster in the family, but he took one look at how high this roof was, and he turned chicken. He turned chicken and he crossed the road. We never found out why.